Hello and welcome to a CData webinar. We're excited to jump into a short presentation on how you can unlock real-time insights and automations with your NetSuite data using CData Connect Cloud. As quick introductions before we dig into the details, I'm Matt Springfield. I'm a technology evangelist here at CData, and I'll be joined by Larry Gleaner from FullBloom, who has graciously shared some of his time with us, and we'll be hearing about his experience using CData's technology alongside NetSuite towards the second half of this presentation. But first, I wanted to lay a bit of groundwork, starting with CData as a company. So we at CData provide a wide range of real-time data connectivity and integration tools for use with Oracle NetSuite and many other platforms. Really, anytime you're struggling with data access problems or data silos, you can probably turn to CData for help. We're headquartered in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, right by Research Triangle Park, and we're founded in 2016, so a little over 8 years old, and have about 10,000 customers, over 10,000 customers using our portfolio of data connectivity solutions. And since we're going to hear from Larry in a few minutes, I'll also add a quick introduction here of our partner FullBloom. FullBloom provides social impact at scale by bringing together a wide range of evidence-based academic, behavioral, social, and emotional services that help ensure positive outcomes for over 150,000 children every year. So by partnering with FullBloom and solving some of their business challenges, we at CData are happy to do our small part in empowering that important work. So we're here to tell the story of FullBloom's journey towards CData Connect Cloud, and like most journeys that involve software solutions, this one starts with a challenge that FullBloom was facing, and that is due to the multidimensional nature of their work, the process for tracking and approving their orders and invoices require tools outside of NetSuite. So the billing data itself is stored in NetSuite, but other platforms like Power Apps need access to this data in order to appropriately process the orders. And to help ensure positive relationships with school districts and the other clients that FullBloom has, it's critical that this order processing not take days on their end due to bottlenecks in tracking or approval. So when you multiply together the different types of contracts and the different stakeholders in each of the different types of the contracts, you get this unwieldy mass of data that needs to be stored in NetSuite but also available outside of NetSuite. And because of all this complexity, manual processes to handle these bottlenecks are simply just going to be too slow. So from this framing of the challenge, we can understand the goal. We need to speed up, and thus we need to automate, critical aspects of our NetSuite order processing so that we can avoid these interruptions and delays that might threaten FullBloom's relationship with their important clients. So with this goal in mind, it's a good time to introduce and focus in on CData Connect Cloud as one of CData's data connectivity tools that helps to solve this challenge and of course others related to NetSuite data access and connectivity. Connect Cloud provides unified real-time access to all of your cloud data through a fully managed service platform that serves as a connectivity hub or a virtual data layer between all of your cloud-hosted data sources like NetSuite and all of the tools that need access to your data like BI or analytics tools, Power Apps, or spreadsheets. Using CData Connect Cloud as this virtual data layer allows you to break down the barriers that would otherwise exist between your NetSuite data and any of the data tools in your organization that benefit from access to it. You'll no longer need ad hoc or bespoke processes to lift and shift NetSuite data, and you no longer need to worry about data silos affecting your dashboards, analytics, automations, and other data workflows. Now you can simply log into the Connect Cloud portal, set up basic connection parameters to grant access to your cloud platforms like NetSuite, and then Connect Cloud can serve as a data querying gateway. So any tool that needs to consume data can query Connect Cloud, and then Connect Cloud knows how to talk to NetSuite and any other platform, and so it can figure out the details of where your data actually lives, go and fetch that data, and provide the results to the original query. The result is that once you set up your connections in Connect Cloud, your data tools can just query Connect Cloud and get the results that it expects. These data tools don't need to know that behind the scenes Connect Cloud is connecting to NetSuite or your other platforms to actually fetch the data that's being queried. Of course, Connect Cloud also provides important features on top of this connectivity, like query federation across multiple data sources, data governance and permission restrictions to build a data mesh, and then finally caching and incremental changes to avoid surpassing API rate limits to improve the performance, and more. So with this understanding of Connect Cloud, we can start to see how it provides a solution to FullBloom's original challenge. With Connect Cloud in place, the order tracking and approval process that's built out in Power Apps now has the ability to query NetSuite data through this virtual layer of Connect Cloud, and that drastically improves the speed at which data can be moved through the billing process. All it took was setting up a basic connection to FullBloom's NetSuite instance in the Connect Cloud portal, and then the data engineers can access and blend together NetSuite data without needing any data warehousing or data movement process. So now that we've covered the full context, I think it's a good time to hear directly from Larry at FullBloom. Here's what Larry had to say about how Connect Cloud solves critical challenges that his organization faced with NetSuite data.
Sure. We have an application that we built in Power Apps to automate or semi-automate our billing process out of NetSuite. The reason we do that is we have a very complicated billing process at FullBloom, and we had a need to track invoice requests outside of NetSuite because we have a lot of data that we don't capture in NetSuite. And we have a lot of people who aren't NetSuite users that we need as part of like an approval process. So what we do in Power Apps is we generate a invoice request, and then we pull some of the data from the invoice for both a sales order and an invoice from NetSuite into Power Apps, and then we build that into an invoice request in Power Apps, send it for approval, and then once the billing team gets it back and it's approved, they go into NetSuite and generate the invoice and send it out to the customer. The thing that we're using CData for is because we needed that data from NetSuite to sync up to Power Apps on a very frequent basis. The users wanted it real time, but as you know, like when you transfer data from one system to another, you have to schedule jobs and data transfers and things like that, and it doesn't actually happen in real time. So best we could do with the NetSuite, we're using Satori in NetSuite to extract our data. Best we could do with that was like on the quarter hour, and then updating. Then it would be updating a data warehouse to Dataverse and Power Apps that we were looking at like a half hour, at like an hourly load, or best a half hour. Meanwhile, the billers are using the system real time, and they're creating sales orders in NetSuite, and then they would go into Power Apps and they'd want to see the data right away. So where CData really helps is it gives us a virtual layer in between Power Apps and NetSuite so that we can query those NetSuite saved searches on a more frequent basis. So I built some saved searches in NetSuite that basically say, give me all the invoice and sales order activity for the last hour. And then we're using CData to basically pull that every 3 minutes and update Power Apps every 3 minutes. So it's not quite real time, but it's a lot better than every half hour or every hour. So using Connect Cloud, we're able to use the NetSuite saved search as a virtual data source, and we have that hooked into Power Apps using the TDS connector, where it'll just directly query those saved searches and pull the data directly into Power Apps every 3 minutes. We build our saved searches in NetSuite. We use Connect Cloud to build our virtual data sources, and now we just query them through Power Apps just like we would a SQL database. We're able to schedule NetSuite extracts on a schedule and load them into a data warehouse, and we can use Power BI and everything else we want to use. But the only problem with that is time delay. It takes time. You gotta wait for the job to export out of NetSuite, generate a CSV, dump it to a OneDrive folder, and then go run a script on the BI side, pick up the CSVs, load them to a SQL Server table, and then go ahead and refresh your Power BI data sets, and which all that stuff happens overnight, which is fine for reporting. But when they have a need for, they're going into this app and they're like, I just created an invoice 5 minutes ago, I need to see it. That's the need that we had to fill. And at first we were using the SQL Server method to load our data into Power Apps, and it was once an hour. And we got a lot of complaints from the billers, like exactly what I just said. Hey, I just created the sales order in NetSuite. How come I don't see it? And I was like, oh, you got to wait for the next hour to see it. And they're like, that's a major interruption to my day. I'm not going to remember to go back into it. One thing after another, right? Look, we need to find a way to make this faster. So we started Googling, and we came across CData. We were looking at, not quite sure that would fit the bill, but with this use case, and it turned out to work pretty well once we tried it out. We got a free trial from you guys, and set it up and tried it, and it actually worked. So we were pretty happy with that once we got everything configured and everything else.
Awesome. So once again, we thank Larry for taking that time to provide us with his experience and to get a glimpse of how CData solutions can help solve specific NetSuite challenges. I think it might be helpful at this point to make the discussion a bit less abstract by showing what it actually looks like to work with Connect Cloud as a virtual data layer. So for a quick demo, I'll show the process of creating Power BI reports with live NetSuite data using Connect Cloud to facilitate that live connection. I've chosen a BI use case here to help expand the scope of this presentation beyond Larry and FullBloom's specific application. Okay, so here's Connect Cloud. I've signed into the portal, and this is the landing page, which is the overview of the platform. But for this demo, my primary task is to establish a connection to any relevant data source, so I'll head to the Connections tab to accomplish that. Now, I've gone ahead and already configured a NetSuite connection ahead of time, but we can take a look at the required connection parameters for NetSuite to get a sense of what creating that connection would feel like. As you can see, creating a connection is simply a matter of providing some access credentials like an account ID and some OAuth token values. I can also verify this connection is live and still working by hitting Save and Test, and there we go. Okay, so now that I have a connection to NetSuite, I just need to make sure I also have a connection to my BI tool, which in this case is Power BI. To that end, I'll head to the Client Tools tab, and I'll simply find Power BI within this grid to see what, if anything, is required for that connection. Now, in Power BI's case, there is nothing further I need to configure or connect within Connect Cloud itself, so clicking this tile simply brings up the documentation for any steps that need to be taken outside of Connect Cloud. For other client tools, however, you might notice there's this connect option that you might need to follow to establish connection with those other tools. Of course, if I wanted to keep adding connections to data sources or to client tools, I could continue doing that, but for this demo, we've actually done everything we need already. So now I'll actually head over to Power BI and briefly show the seamless interaction between Power BI and Connect Cloud. I'm creating a new report on this page, so of course Power BI wants me to get data for that report. I can choose Get Data from Another Source, and then simply search for CData in the list here, and you can see Connect Cloud is natively embedded within Power BI. I haven't needed to install anything to see this, which also, by the way, is why we didn't have to connect to Power BI from within the Connect Cloud portal itself. I've already signed in to my specific Connect Cloud account on this computer, so Power BI already knows how to authenticate. If it's your first time connecting, though, you'd simply be redirected to a login screen. Once that's done, I can see all of the connections I've configured to data sources in Connect Cloud here in this panel. Since I'm interested in NetSuite data, I'll of course choose my NetSuite connection from before. Now we need to choose the relevant tables or views to pull into the report. And since this is a live connection with NetSuite, by clicking Expand here, we're querying NetSuite metadata to see what data objects are available. In this example, I'll be using Activity, so I'll select it, and Power BI can query NetSuite through the Connect Cloud virtual data layer to access that activity data. Okay, so now that I've established that access to NetSuite, anything I can do in Power BI, I can now do with my live NetSuite data. And just as a quick illustration, let's chart, say, the status of our different types of activities. So to that end, I'll select Clustered Bar Chart, and then as my legend or grouping will be status, and then my value here will be the count of type. And with that, Power BI will pull that NetSuite data into our quick and dirty visualization, and I can expand it here to make sure you can see it. And of course, if I'm a Power BI wizard, I can keep building out my dashboard with that direct access to all of my NetSuite data. But for now, that's all we really wanted to show for a quick demo of using Connect Cloud as a virtual data layer between Power BI and NetSuite. And before we wrap up, I just wanted to highlight a few final takeaway points. First, here at CData, we focus on data connectivity challenges so that you don't have to. FullBloom now doesn't have to spend their time worrying about their slow billing process, and they can get back to the social impact of their education services. Second, Connect Cloud scales gracefully as the needs of your business grow, since we can leverage the dynamic allocation of our native cloud architecture. And finally, the power of the Connect Cloud virtual data layer is to enable this real-time or near real-time data access from data tools like Power Apps, with the ability to query the virtual data layer and get data back from data sources like NetSuite without requiring any sort of ETL, ELT, or data warehousing process. And that's it for our short customer journey webinar. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that FullBloom's journey with NetSuite and Connect Cloud was edifying and perhaps applicable to your own situations as well.